After wandering in the desert for 40 years, the Israelites, led by Joshua, were finally approaching the long-awaited Promised Land, a region rich and fertile, where they could establish their future and fulfill God's promises to their ancestors. However, before they could claim it, there was a formidable obstacle in their way: the fortified city of Jericho. It stood tall and daunting, with walls so thick and high that no invading army had ever breached them. Jericho was a symbol of strength and security, a seemingly impregnable fortress in the heart of the land God had promised to his people. Joshua, appointed by God as Moses' successor, knew that this was no ordinary battle. Human tactics and weapons wouldn't be enough to conquer a city like Jericho. But Joshua had unwavering faith that God, who had guided them through the wilderness, would continue to show his power and faithfulness. And sure enough, God revealed a remarkable plan, one that no strategist could have ever imagined. God commanded Joshua to have the armed men march around the city once each day for 6 days. They were to proceed in silence, and behind them were 7 priests carrying trumpets made from ram's horns. Behind the priests, the Ark of the Covenant was carried by Levites, symbolizing God's very presence with his people. This sacred chest reminded the Israelites that God was leading them, as he had always done. The plan seemed strange and unorthodox. It wasn't about swords or siege machines. It was about obedience and faith. For 6 days, the Israelites obeyed these instructions without question. Day after day, they formed their silent procession around Jericho's walls, watched closely by the city's inhabitants. The people of Jericho were confused, even amused by what they saw: a silent army walking in circles. They might have mocked the Israelites, feeling secure behind their towering walls. But the Israelites marched on, their eyes fixed on the task God had given them. Then came the 7th day, and this day was different. At dawn, the Israelites assembled once more, but this time they marched around the city not once, but 7 times. With each lap, anticipation grew. What was God about to do? What would happen at the end of the 7th lap? The people were filled with a sense of reverence and expectancy, trusting fully in the power of their God. Finally, after the 7th lap, Joshua raised his hand and gave the signal. The priests lifted their trumpets and sounded a loud blast, filling the air with the piercing sound of ram's horns. Then at Joshua's command, the Israelites shouted with all their might, a cry that echoed through the valley and rose to the heavens. Their voices filled the air, a chorus of faith and obedience to God's command. In that moment, something miraculous happened. The strong walls of Jericho, which had withstood countless assaults, began to tremble. Stones cracked, and the ground beneath the city shook as the walls collapsed in an instant, falling flat to the ground as if they had been built from sand. With nothing standing in their way, the Israelites charged straight into Jericho, capturing the city and defeating its inhabitants. It was a victory not won by human strength or military strategy, but by the power of God, just as he had promised.